What's happening with FDA meeting timelines? How long are FDA delays? How is FDA working post-COVID-19? On this segment of MedTech Crossroads, we're going to answer these questions using a recent update from FDA's Center for Devices and Radiological Health and talk about what it means for startup MedTech companies. MedTech Crossroads is brought to you by Intubeing, your medical device development partner. Free learning from MedTech Crossroads will save you headaches on your medical device development journey. So let's get to this news item. Here's the article from CDRH, Emerging from the Pandemic, CDRH in-person meeting status and pre-market workload. Everybody knows that FDA was working like crazy during COVID-19. Even the main processes that they were trying to run, many of them had to be put on the back burner. In-person meetings were shut down. Much of the staff's attention turned to processing emergency use authorizations and working through what they could do. The joke was always when FDA would say, hey, can we call you on the weekend? And everyone laughed because FDA never calls you on the weekend. You have to nag them usually. Well, that's all changing. And this is actually a pretty exciting update from FDA. And of course, here from Jeff Shuren and Dr. Bill Mazel at the agency. 3.5 years they were dealing with COVID-19. And they highlight the resiliency of FDA's staff. Indeed, they did a great job during the pandemic. It's been challenging ever since, the turnover at the agency. And everyone's been looking for what is the new normal. Well, they're getting bold enough to declare that the new normal is here and has been here. In fact, they didn't need to say this, but I think it's interesting. We observed a recent resurgence in device innovation. For example, CDRH has received more submissions for novel devices over the past 12 months than during any 12-month period since we began tracking this metric in 2015. That's actually really, really cool. Now, when they say novel devices, I think they're focused there on breakthrough device pathway, de novo, and Safer Technologies program devices. So it's not all device submissions. We could look at those numbers, but they're getting more submissions than ever for novel devices. And they're certainly creating the pathways for those. Here's some really good news too. We're accepting and holding in-person meetings with stakeholders and have been doing so for quite some time. So just know that this is an option. In-person meetings are an option with FDA. That doesn't get to the timeline quite yet, but that is an option. We're going to talk about the timeline question here in just a moment. It's not that you have to do it in person. Remember, when you do something like a pre-submission with FDA, you can ask for written feedback. You're going to get written feedback. You're going to get written feedback, and you can ask for an in-person or a teleconference with the agency. If you ask for the in-person and it turns out you don't need it because the written feedback is so great, that's fine. You don't have to take the in-person meeting, but it's a nice option. It's great to be face-to-face with the agency. And so hybrid or only the written letter, all are options once again. So that's an option there, hybrid meetings as well. How long is it going to take? This is the big question. This is why you're here to, how long is it going to take? How long are these meetings taking? How big is the backlog? How backed up is FDA? Get this. This is good news. For requests tied to product submissions, we follow standard scheduling timelines consistent with MDUFA Medical Device User Fee Act 5 performance goals. Now, it may be limited by facility capacity and logistical considerations, but it is our intention. Wow, look at these words. These are great. To accommodate in-person meeting requests wherever feasible. And their target is the MDUFA 5 performance goals. Yeah, and it's true. Sometimes it won't happen exactly like they would like it to, but they're actually back to not saying, ooh, probably isn't going to happen. They're actually saying we're now back to targeting what our goals were supposed to be. In fact, CDRH is pleased to announce that we've been operating under normal review timelines for all incoming pre-market submissions for almost a year. as of the writing of this document, which is 8/2, which is 2 days ago. So FDA, in answer to the question you came here for, FDA is operating under normal review timelines for all incoming pre-market submissions for almost a year, and they're intending for in-person meetings to meet their MDUFA 5 goals. That is just wonderful news. There's fewer than 80 EUAs still left in the pipeline, mostly in vitro diagnostic tests for COVID-19. And they're in the process of all the transition. There's more than 30 EUA devices have successfully transitioned to traditional authorization through the 510K or de novo pathways, but that is starting to wind down and to be something that is coming out of the process. Now, a few more words about FDA 510K and pre-sub timelines, because a lot of you may be asking, well, I don't know if I need an in-person meeting, but I just want to know, how long does it take? How long is my 510K going to take? How long is my pre-sub going to take? Here's what FDA says in their 510K documentation. The FDA goal to make a MDUFA decision for a 510K is 90 FDA days. Those are calendar days between the date the 510K was received and the date of a decision, excluding the days that it was on hold for an additional information request. So that's something that is going to take extra time. 510Ks don't usually take truly 90 days because FDA does a refuse to accept checklist, and then they will come back out once they've started the review for additional information. They almost always do. So it will take longer than that, but think 90 days for your 510K once it's submitted to the agency. Another common question about timelines has to do with the, somehow I didn't make it in here, the 70-day timeline to an in-person meeting for pre-subs and related informational meetings. So you should expect about 70 days. You're going to get about 60, 65 days to a letter, and then 70 to the actual in-person meeting for that. So a little bit of information on FDA timelines, but the good news is that FDA pre-market reviews have been happening inside their goals for the last year, and it turns out that for in-person meetings, the goal is to meet the MDUFA 5 timelines. They're not hemming and hawing. They're not saying this probably won't happen. They're saying we're back to normal. And that is really exciting news. If you like what you heard today, please like and subscribe to help keep us bringing you free MedTech education.